what kind of car you drive. Okay, do you have a bicycle? You like riding your bicycle? Yeah. You like driving your car? You have a BMW? That's fine. Or you got an old '65 Plymouth Valiant? Hey, that's great too. I said the kind of vehicle you drive does not make what's in here. All right. But I think that the stereotype, everything. I reckon I'm here to show that anybody can be a Muslim. You follow what I'm saying? Because I don't fit the stereotype Muslim. The stereotype Muslim that people in that mind here is, long robe, keffiyeh, or maybe just wearing a kufi or something. This is what people perceive over here as being a Muslim. They don't look at me as being a Muslim because I don't fit the profile.
Right.
So I reckon I'm breaking the profile. Then we have another brother here who's European American, myself also. He's pulled. He's been in the. Well, he's right. Let me think. He was in the National Guard, Army, and then he got it. And then he went back into the Air National Guard to finish up for his retirement. And looking at him, he doesn't fit the profile neither.
But let me ask you on this profile issue. Some people sometimes ask me, how come I don't see more Caucasian Americans accepting Islam? And I really don't know how to answer that. If somebody asked you that, what would you tell them?
Yeah, let me make sure I understand the question.
Somebody says, America, there are a lot of Caucasian Americans, and, maybe you see Afro-American, maybe you see immigrant Muslims here. But people say, why we don't see more Caucasian Americans coming to Islam?
Oh, okay. There's probably more than you think. When my first wife and I got married, we were a very unique couple in the Richmond area because we were the only, both of us were Caucasian Americans who were married, both of us were Muslim. Then there was another brother, I remember he was 16 years old, he came to the Islamic Center and I was there when he took Shahada. And his parents, even though they didn't, they never became Muslim themselves, they supported him in coming to the mosque. They would drive him to the mosque if he needed a ride. And then later on, he would marry another Caucasian American lady, Muslim, and I think they still live in the Richmond area, just in the other side of town.
Right.
So I think there's more here than what you know. There's another brother. His name is Asher Smith. He's been Muslim for 30 years, I imagine, and we took Shahada at the same place. He, of course, him 10 years prior to me. If you want to go for ratio to ratio, probably the reason why you see more African Americans in Muslim is that the Nation of Islam actually did a really good service in a lot of respects. They actually brought to the forefront Islam. Now the way the nation does, I don't agree with the actual Nation of Islam and their rhetoric and everything, but it did open up a lot of eyes. Malcolm X was a perfect example of that. Matter of fact, I saw the movie when it came out years ago on Malcolm X, and actually I went ahead and bought the DVD, and I showed my present wife. My present wife is Christian, and I said, I just want to show you a few things, And I showed his path to real Islam when he finally saw what happened at Hajj, all the different cultures and people, different colors and everything. It really opened his eyes. So I think that's probably the reason why maybe you don't see as many Caucasian Americans, because the Caucasian Americans weren't attracted by the Nation of Islam. Matter of fact, they were actually not allowed to join, so they didn't have the exposure. So I think that's probably the reason.
But do you think that things are changing now today?
I think things are changing now. When I come to the mosque here, I see more and more, white European Americans, coming to the mosque, and overall in general, they're not just this particular one here. This mosque right here really is a melting pot. I mean, there's no one dominant group here. It's like it's just so almost evenly mixed. It's really nice.
Now you talked about Malcolm X going on Hajj and Umrah, but have you ever been able to go on Hajj or visit Saudi Arabia yourself?
Not yet, but inshallah, I'll be able to go. I think what's really amazing with this, with the war going on right now, I think it's really ironic that the ones who want to go over there can't, and the ones who don't want to go are being sent.
Right.
I think it's really ironic. I know a couple of young gentlemen. Both of them are 20 years old. One of them is U.S. Army National Guard, got federalized, and he was deployed to Kuwait for 6 months, guarding a naval base. The other gentleman's 20 years old, second tour of duty in Iraq in Baghdad, United States Marine Corps. And what I got from the gentleman who's the Marine, I talked to him when he came back. The first time he came back, it was because his vehicle ran over an IED and he got burned up and bruised up real bad. They sent him home to recuperate. And I asked him, I said, you know, what's really going on over there? And I know that sometimes the news media and even people in Iraq try to make it look like we're the bad guys here, which, you know, I disagree with the war, but in some ways, you know, I was kind of glad to see that somebody was taken under power. But this gentleman said we're actually trying to help the people over there. He said when they're fired upon, he said they don't just arbitrarily fire back. He said it's really something. He said they have to get on the horn and call Hickwitz. Listen, we're being on fire. This is where we're at. Can we fire back? And they said, hang on a minute, we got to check. They said we're still taking on fire. Can we fire back? And they do go to great lengths to make sure before they fire that they are firing on what is considered to be a real target, not just, you know, an arbitrary, you know, firing. So I did learn a little bit about that from somebody who actually was in the middle of it. So.
Now, also, you told me you're like an amateur astronomer. Just tell me a bit about looking to the stars and looking at those things, and how that also makes you to appreciate the perfection of Allah's creation.
Oh yeah, definitely. I can't remember what sort of I used to know the name. I'm just having a moment right now, if you know what I mean. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, can they not see, and he's talking to the learned people, the scholarly people, can they not see that we created it all as one unit and then cleft it asunder? Well, that's Big Bang Theory right there. Astronomers, cosmologists say that the universe started from one primordial little drop about the size of a pinhead. And all of a sudden, boom, it expanded, it just blew up. Got cleft asunder by some power. And even the top astronomers and cosmologists will tell you that if you ask them what happened before what was before this pinhead, most of them will say, well, we attribute that to God. They can't go back any further than that. That's as far back as they can go and scientifically explain stuff. When I look at telescope, I look at you see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that he created the universe and all that's in between, or smoke. Well, you know, if you look in the telescope, you can see nebula. Nebula basically looks like smoke looking at it. It's dust particles which coalesce, gravity pulls it in, coalesced it, and makes it into stars. You know, when they get the right amount of pressure, you know, fusion starts happening. When that happens, you have an atomic explosion. You got a star is born. So, you know, it's already in Quran. This was in Quran, you know, over 1,400 years ago. And we're just basically discovering this over the past 200 years, roughly. You know, 100 years, most of it. But you know, a lot of the stuff has been in theory and thought for about 200 years. Right.
And now, do you use your skills with the telescope to try to aid in the moon sighting for the, you know, important month, like in Ramadan and these things?
I have a very powerful telescope. It's computerized. All I got to do is punch in the coordinates or something. It'll go straight to it. But for doing the months, you know, the lunar months every month, myself and several other brothers in the Richmond area, we have like a halal committee. We try to cite it. We call each other, let them know, yes, we saw it, no, we didn't. What time
But you just don't do this when the time of Ramadan is approaching?
No, we do it. We try to do it all throughout the whole entire year. Anyway, back to the telescope. We've talked about the halal committee. Well, I got a very powerful telescope. I can point it anywhere I want.